A
Oh,
little further away, camera or you. A little bit more, right there.
well, I won't be able to see what I. Let's see. Let me see.
Okay.
Let me move the camera.
Well, that's good for us. Right there is fine too.
Okay.
Okay, good.
That's how's that? Okay.
And
Right.
I apologize, guys, for getting a slow start here. I wanted to introduce Eloise. She is a retired math professor. She's an author. We've heard her before. She's a wonderful club member of ours and a dear club, a friend of the club. So with that, Eloise, I'm going to turn the mic over to you, and I will try to pin you on the screen for everybody once you start talking.
Okay. Well, I want to propose a proposition related to climate change because I'm a climate radical. I thought I'd like to share a lot more about the climate that you might not know. Oh, wow. Okay. Anyway, I write blogs and I look them up. So I'll be talking about some of them. My husband and I decided to move our donations to practically all corporations or institutions that are related to climate change. My favorite is Earth Justice. Their slogan is because Earth needs a good lawyer. And in fact, they like us too, because we received this recently. And I see in the catalog that I got that they are helping out. Naturally, they sue corporations and even governments, but they have convinced air quality management to help a portion of LA where it's the worst air quality in all of this country. And because of so much gas, everything is gas that they use. They're all of their appliances, etc. And so they're trying to change that. And I love that kind of thing. I also like Save the Bay because at one time, so much pollution because it sits up above the ocean was, or above the bay, it was all coming down there. We have a solar panels. We have a heat pump. Our electricity bill is under $200 per year, but of course we pay dearly for the installation of those things. I recently enabled to use Ridwell. It's not in my area, but it is in the city of Alameda, where my daughter lives. So I ship all my stuff to her. And to my surprise, not only are those hard plastics, clamshells that berries come in, but all of this, these plastic things, tonight we had pasta, it was in here. My husband had granola, which is in here. All of these kinds of plastic things are accepted by Ridwell. And tons of plastic ends up in the ocean. And not only that, but plastic is in our bodies. We breathe it, we smell it, we eat it. And physicians are concerned about the consequences of that. And as a matter of fact, plastic in the ocean kills plankton. And guess what? Plankton dying means the ocean will die, and that means oxygen will die. And the oceans provide more oxygen than all of the forests in the world. So plastic is a dangerous object. But here's some good news. There's a team in Japan that has discovered a plastic that will dissolve in salt water in 30 seconds. When I first read that, it was probably about a year ago, and I thought, oh, lots of rock coming to our country. But I did some investigation and I discovered, lo and behold, there are corporations in this country who are interested in buying it and maybe even producing it. Also, there is a woman in Kenya who happened to live in a place next to the ocean or close to the ocean where the plastic that gets dumped into the ocean would land near her. And she was so tired of looking at it, she figured out a way of making bricks out of the plastic. That just boggles my mind. Those bricks are harder than cement. And once again, I thought, oh, that was nice of her. But she has made a corporation and she hires 110 people and produces 1,500 of these bricks per day. And indeed, our country may be buying them or trying to figure out how to use them. One thing about climate change in terms of, doing good is the one thing that if you blow it, as Trump is, I mean, he took us out of the Paris Accord in his first term. And of course, now everything that helps or fights climate change, he wants to do away with. And that's a big concern to me because healthcare we can suddenly start it again. Other issues are fixable in a short amount of time. The climate change is not. Let's see what else. Oh, and of course, you probably heard that Trump has just opened out national parks and other public land in South California. Whether he'll get away with it, I don't know. And by open the land, I mean allowing oil companies to come in and dig. I'm reminded of Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer on the Capitol Hill steps. Did everybody see that? To see them? And they spoke about never forget J6. And in fact, I call Trump DJ6T because his middle name is John. And so the J stands for John and January. So I call him DJ6T for short, because I don't want to forget, or I want to remind people of what he did on January 6th. Now let me turn to California, since that's what I promised to talk about. Tri-Valley is in especially bad shape, air quality wise. I keep leaning in, sorry about that. Because we're surrounded by hills, and we've got 580 and 680, both in our area. In fact, our house has no curtains on the back, and we're facing 580. And I have type 2 diabetes, which means I make many trips to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and it doesn't matter what time I look out there. There's a stream of cars, all spewing, their gas fumes. And it's so bad that the city of California, the state of California, is sending out special cars that are driving around Pleasanton, and testing the air. And they're going to be doing that for 1 full year. I think it's only been a couple of months right now. Let's see what. Let's see, kind of read my writing here of what I want. California has trees, lots of forests. That's good news and bad news, because the trees, of course, cool the temperature. They suck up carbon dioxide. However, when they burn, all of that carbon dioxide comes out, and of course the temperatures go back up. So two bills, they're identical. I don't know why. One is in the House or Assembly, I mean, and one is in the Senate, and they're identical. I don't know why they're both there. Maybe somebody who's more familiar with California politics.
One would be an assembly bill, and then one would be a Senate bill. So
Right.
it gets a new number as it passes through the.
Yeah, they have different numbers, and they have got through one of the committees at least twice, but they are now stalled. So it's probably not going to be till 2007. I assume they stalled them because they didn't feel they had the votes. And if you put the vote, if you put something forward and it doesn't pass, then of course you don't get to turn around and try again a month later. So I think that's what I'm assuming is that they have been pulled. So it's really critical that cities and and groups like us let people know that we support this bill. And the issue seems to be that there are claims that gas prices will go up. Well, four economists say that it's wrong. These economists are professors at UC Berkeley, and UC Berkeley's can't think of the term. At my age, words escape me, but their department of economists, I guess it's economy department, is one of the best in the world. And they say this is wrong for a number of reasons. One is that the companies do not dictate the gas prices. It's dictated by a broader group. Two, there's plenty of competition that are of gas stores that aren't related to or they don't get their gas from these companies. They have been keeping track of them, and they have something like 20 billion tons of gas. Which gas is it? I've forgotten now. Let me see. What is it that carbon, I guess, that their corporations have spewed into the air from 1990 to 2023. We want regular assessments of what they're doing. And there are laws against price gouging. They have made tons of money over the last decades. So the proposal I have is to support these bills that are called Make Polluters Pay. And there are others that argue, well, that's what they did in the past. You can't, charge them for something that's been done in the past, but that's not correct. California has done that before. Lead in paint, for example. I was chair of the math department when the company that painted our building inside, had to come back, and I don't know if they stripped the paint or just painted over with paint that did not contain lead. So there are precedents for punishing people in some sense for what they've done in the past. Let's see, what else have I got here?
Eloise, is there a like a summary of what this bill does? I'm looking at the legislation summary. It looks like it was introduced in February 2025. It was pulled by the author. At this point, I don't know if it's going anywhere, but what is there a kind of a high level what this bill would do, so that we could reach out to our legislatures and see if we could push this back as a top priority for them?
Yes, they have plans for what they will do with the funds. One, they'll keep track of. First of all, it'll be just a technical kind of thing. They need to somehow decide who pays what. They have a list of the companies and how many tons of pollution they have, or carbon they have done since 1990. I don't know why that particular year up until 2023. So first of all, they have to spend some money to figure out what they actually have to pay. And then they will use that money to build portions of cities, for example, down in LA, cities that can resist the dangers that climate change causes. They'll try to build safer places near forests. They will try to, build things that would assist people in getting out sooner or being far enough away. See, what else are they talking about? Well, for one thing, we may pay less in taxes, so we may save money because we have a disaster fund in the California government, and that disaster fund pays for Paradise, for LA. Well, LA was $250 billion, and that money comes out of our taxes. Furthermore, our home insurance with these fires and other disasters goes up. Home insurance, we had to look for a different insurer, and I'm sure many of you may have had to do the same kind of thing. So, and education about climate change, those are some of the things that they want to use the money for. Let's see, what else is that I want to? Oh, there are 10 states that are considering they're doing the same thing. New York and Vermont already have done that. So now I try to open it for more questions if I can answer them. I learned a lot. I was surprised, for example, about the plastic dissolving in the ocean. That seems to me as huge, but when I read it the first time, I got fat chance that we would be doing that sort of thing. So if there are any other questions, I'll try to answer them, and if I can't, I'll look it up.
And I just went ahead and shared an article about this from the Climate Center org. So some reading materials for you all. Anybody? Looks like Ellis has his hand up. Ellis, you want to go ahead and unmute yourself?
Okay, I'm unmuted. When you first said this plastic dissolves in salt water, it occurred to me, so what? The fish drink the salt water gets into the whole food chain, and what's the difference if it instantly dissolves or dissolves over many years? It still winds up in our bodies, in the bodies of
No,
anybody eating.
I think if it's gone that quickly, but the big thing is the plankton.
I didn't catch that. Oh,
Plankton.
it saves the plankton.
It kills the plankton. Plastic kills the plankton.
And this new stuff doesn't kill the plankton?
No, not if it dissolves that quickly. And if it doesn't, and it kills the plankton, and plankton kills the ocean, which provides our oxygen.
Yeah, I understand where plankton fits into the food chain.
Okay.
And that makes a lot of sense. But is it really clear that this new stuff, this new plastic, doesn't kill the plankton? Do they make that claim?
Well, if it dissolves, how can it? If it's dissolved and it becomes part of the water, there's nothing left of it.
I'll tell you what, you take a glass of water and you put some arsenic in it and it dissolves. Will it kill you? I think so. Dissolves doesn't.
Well, I think I believe that it's not going to kill the plankton once it's dissolved.
One of the things about plastic, they have plastics out that are now where they have organic materials integrated into the plastic. And basically what it allows the plastic to do is to break down into smaller parts. So they call it, with these compostable plastics, the plastic is still there. It still has, basically chains of plastic elements, but they have interrupted those chains with organic materials that allow critters to eat at them. And then it creates small plastic pieces that will basically get integrated into the soil, but they don't really go away. I mean, the plastic polymers are, they're there forever. They can still constitute microplastics. I don't know how you can make a plastic that dissolves in salt water that could still be called a plastic, because the plastic polymers are real.
My understanding is it's simply gone. The microplastics is still plastic, and physicians are very concerned about the amount that we are eating, breathing, and smelling in our bodies. We don't know what that does, because it's still, it may be tiny, but it's unclear that it's safe.
Yeah, I'm a PhD organic chemist, and it's fairly complicated, but there are compounds that break down to very natural type compounds, and once it becomes something like lactic acid or butyric acid, those are in nature all the time anyway, and the food chain can handle them. So the question is more the long-term plastics like polyvinyl chloride and polyethylene, polypropylene with all their additives. So there are existing plastics that do, I don't know about the particular one you're talking about, but that do degrade to very organic compounds that are, biodegraded, used for food by bugs, turn into CO2, no different than other ones. So that's the goal, but typically they're more expensive, so people haven't gone to them, or sometimes the properties aren't perfect. So, maybe not as strong or something. So, and then some exist that are pretty biodegradable quickly, but, cost more. So those are the balances.
Yeah, I don't know what the cost of these plastics are. Obviously, we're using plastic instead of tin cans because the plastic is obviously cheaper. But when they break down into merely small pieces, that's not what's happening in the ocean. And they're just tiny pieces, but they're still plastic. And physicians are very concerned about the amount that human bodies are absorbing. I don't know if they know anything about the ones that are literally dissolving, as you described.
If it dissolves to a normal compound that's in nature all the
Yeah,
time, anyway, that's goes into the food chains, gets converted to CO2, it probably doesn't matter too much, like acetic acid and things like that. So the question is, what are the little byproducts? But that's getting into a lot of detail. In general, it is possible to have pretty eco-friendly plastics that will dissolve and basically go away and be assimilated. But most that they're commercially used currently don't do that.
Yeah, right. We're not there yet, but Japan, the scientists in Japan, I think when they say that it dissolves, I'm certain they wouldn't think it was worthwhile if it became just little microplastics.
Yeah. If you send me the reference, I'd be curious to look. I don't know if you have a reference, but anyway.
I could dig it up. I could dig it up.
Yeah, that's fine. I'd be curious. And I'm on, I see a lot of startups, 200 startup pitches a year, including green, eco. I'm on the MIT alumni for climate action, looking at things like this. And, there's a lot going on, but right now it's dominated by economics and also by a particular administration with Trump.
I have a question regarding the super fund. Would that super fund also be tracking like all this thing we're talking about, the biodegradables, the so-called safe plastics? I mean, is that all a part of this bill, or is that
No.
beyond what this bill does?
Yeah, no, it's not part of this bill at all. I mean, I suppose they right now I described what they plan to do with it, but of course, who knows down the line if what they might do. They may not even know about the scientists in Japan that discovered it. I assumed when I read about that a year or so ago is that fat chance of it coming here, but I was surprised when I decided to look it up again, and there does seem to be some interest. And of course, I would pay more money for something that's safer, but maybe not everybody would. I have no clue whether you could do it, economically or not. I'm sure we went to plastic because it's cheaper than tin.
I hate plastic. Alameda County now there's no plastic bags being handed out at the grocery store. So it's all paper. Yay, finally.
Yeah.
Cheers. Ellis, did you have another question? Or
Yes,
comment?
I did. I read the legislation that you're talking about an hour before the meeting. And first of all, it's 1990 to December 2025 is the period that the polluting was done. And it's
they're
limited.
measuring. I think they use 23 to measure, who's going to have to be charged.
Yeah, anyway, it needed to be updated to December 2025 when it's finally implemented.
Mhm.
But that isn't really what my question is about. Another thing that it said was that the polluter had to be polluting 1 billion tons per year of schmutz in the atmosphere. Okay. Now you know the technical term. And that that would kind of indicate that some of the smaller refineries and the smaller oil companies would get in under the wire, that they wouldn't be able to prove that they had emitted or caused to emit that minimum amount of pollution, and they would be getting off scot-free, and it would be only the really big corporations, the
Real-
Exxon, Chevron, Shell, we know the names of them,
Mhm.
and
By the way, they have a list of, they
yeah,
already have studied them. Shell is number one, um, is number one. Chevron is number four, and these four are, I think, the ones it may only be those four that have to pony up.
yeah, so
Wonder how much
they would
money's
have to
gone up in
pony up all of it for the entire industry because the little guys would get in under the wire. And then there's the question of where is the money going to come from? And I read through this legislation, and yeah, we can say corporations make a lot of profit. These corporations have made a lot of profit over the years, but there's no way of taking the money from the shareholders. The only thing you can do is cut into the profits, and it becomes part of the cost of doing business, just like paying the electricity bill, paying the rent. Corporations will just consider that part of their
Okay.
operating costs. And
Studies have shown their profit is huge, and this would take 3.5% of their profit. That's not.
3.5%. Well, that wasn't in the legislation, but I'll take the word
No,
for that.
this is the economists from Berkeley that have or whoever's done the background stuff that was
Yeah.
that's what they said.
Because the question of what's profit becomes very questionable because, you can own a stock and they have a very tiny dividend, but instead, all of the profit that they make, they go and they gobble up other things, and that's how they grow and the stock price increases. And anyway, I'll vote for endorsing this legislation, but I think that the legislators have to figure out how exactly you exact the amount of monies that you want from a corporation so that you're not screwing the customer, but in fact, the owners, the stockholders, are really paying the price.
Well, that's one of the first thing they need to do is to monetize the amount that they of carbon and other greenhouse gases that they spew. So that will actually cost some of the money, but they'll basically it'll be coming out of their pockets to figure out how much they owe. But indeed, there aren't that many. It looks like it may only be 4 companies that are involved.
Probably large companies.
Yeah, the 4 largest. No doubt.
Dan put a
Certainly the
comment-
ones who made the most money and have polluted the most.
Dan put a comment in the chat, and I think this is really relevant in what's happening with AI and the need for electric energy,
God, yeah.
which is also going to exacerbate this. We're already hearing that our rates are going to skyrocket because of having to compete with these data centers. So the comment was, even more important is to require all data centers to only use renewable energy that they generate themselves and address the water problem too. The climate should not be hostage to aggressive
Yeah.
corporations. So that's an excellent comment. It would be nice to revise this legislation somehow, or get one of our legislatures to revise it, but also address other climate issues like the AI data centers that we're going to be facing.
I agree. Well, I at least agree it needs to be addressed, whether it should be, you know, part of this bill or not. I'm not so sure. Sometimes if you have too
Much in one bill. I
too
know
much in
Urban
one
Journey
in one
is-
bill, it
is
can
trying
sink it.
to do some stuff with energy, with um, uh, what is the new technology out at the lab? So there's some new legislation that he's working on.
Fusion.
Fusion, thank you, Ellis. My brain is.
Jeff is on here. He knows something about fusion.
Jeff, did you want to chime in on this conversation at this point? Jeff Colvin? I think Ellis,
Well,
he just invoked
um,
your name on Fusion.
Yes, I know, but what was the question on fusion? How did that come up?
Well, the comment came from one of our members that, you know, as we're looking at the impacts of these corporations, one of the big thing is all the energy that's going to be required for these data centers. And his comment was we should require all new data centers that the corporations generate their own clean energy instead of us having to foot the bill for their data centers to fire
Agree
all
in
our
prin-
employees.
I agree in principle with having the companies running the data centers to pay for the electricity instead of passing that cost on to all customers of the utility.
Mm-hmm.
But their need for electric generation to run these data centers is so great that restricting them to renewables is not feasible. I mean, the basic fact that we're stuck with solar, for example, is we're just sitting here on this little tiny rocky planet that's 100 million miles away from a fairly ordinary small class G star, so we receive only like 2 megajoules per square meter of solar energy at the surface of the Earth. That's why to make a industrial scale power plant with solar requires a whole lot of acreage covered with solar panels. Whereas these data centers are going to have to consume the energy output equivalent to at least one very large industrial scale power plant. I understand that, for example, I think it's Microsoft, if I'm not mistaken, has purchased the old site of the 3 Mile Island reactor site that's 3 miles downriver from Harrisburg in Pennsylvania. And that was the site of that now notorious leak that closed down the power plant decades ago. Well, Microsoft is buying it to bring it back online as a nuclear power plant to run a data center that they're planning to build there near Harrisburg. So
That's kind
it's
of
very, I think it is an issue that should be discussed about um, where this electricity is coming from for all these data centers and who's paying for it.
Yeah. Make Earth a heat pump, heat pump. Well,
Yeah, so I agree with Dan's statement that this is really a regulatory problem, not a physical problem.
And Meta has agreed to a nuclear deal to power its data centers also.
Hmm.
Reactors all over the friggin' place. That's a
Yeah.
little
stop
scary.
using AI for customer service because it sucks.
Maybe they'll buy
Why?
the old the GE
Yeah,
plant.
and we don't
this.
have fusion power plants yet,
Well, the
whenever,
sun works really well. Greatest
yes,
fusion, billions of years, no
right,
accidents. So put up the solar panels.
yeah,
A lot easier than building a whole planet and Mars. I mean, why not just try to save our own planet? Why are we going
Yes,
to Mars?
yes.
But anyways,
Well,
any other questions?
send Elon to Mars.
Yeah, I wish we could on a one-way trip. Any other comments or discussions around this? I will send out as much information as I have on this. It is not currently in, going through legislation, but we'll see if we can revive some of this or send a letter of, a letter of recommendation to our elected officials. But let's get a little more details behind what the legislation is going to do and get it to our members. And then maybe, Eloise, you and I could work on maybe a resolution that we could put together and present to members next month.
Okay.
And
Well, one of the things is not what they want to do, what we need to indicate that it needs to be done. We need to act. And by the way, there are let's see, I guess there are lots of cities, and I don't know if there are DEM clubs, but there are a lot of cities that have signed on as asking for something like this. I tried to write something. I said we don't have to support the actual bills, but the essential aspect of it. If there's something in there that is bugging people, I don't know if it's the whole bill or if there's some little tweak that is not liked. It certainly could be changed.
the only thing that comes to my mind is some of the articles about California's finances, and they're worried that if the stock market, which with Trump, it could be any comment any day, any threat of war could send the markets. But so much of our California economy is built into the funds that have been invested by California, that if some of these companies start taking a dump, then so will our funding.
Yeah. Well, let me repeat. Our taxes and our home insurance is paying for all of these tragedies. The LA's, forgot the name of the city already, Paradise. A few years back, those were billions, several hundred billions of dollars, and the healthcare costs are going up because of the air we breathe. So we're spending a lot of money to try to take care of things instead of and while we're letting the oil companies just ignore the problems they're causing, or the air that they're causing. Obviously, we can't sort of end forest fires forever, but we can improve our air quality.
I have a suggestion that we meet with Rebecca Bauer-Cahan and Tim Grayson and possibly Jerry McNerney about how they feel about this legislation. Are they in favor of it? Does it have holes in it? And we can call it a committee of the club I'd be glad to go with you, Eloise, to do that and help you set up a meeting and find out how our legislators feel about it, uh, given that it probably won't come to be until 2027.
Yeah, no, I think
It gives
that,
us time to what we call in sales laying pipe.
And Eric Ellis.
Oh,
Forgot Eric.
well, uh, this isn't a federal affair,
well,
and
as I said, I'm a radical. I will decide who to vote for governor by who favors this bill. And I'm very cynical about, maybe it's not something in there, but obviously these corporations donate lots of money to future candidates. And so that puts them between the people there between a rock and a hard place. Do they want to do what pleases the people, or do they want the money to keep running for office? That's how cynical I am. But this is so important to me that, as I said, I will want to know how they feel about this, and that'll matter in terms of who I vote for governor, and maybe who.
but may I suggest you ask ChatGPT or Gemini to investigate for you who contributed to gubernatorial campaigns from the oil companies. Which oil companies contributed?
Yeah,
That's a good question for them.
yeah, that would be
And they'll
great.
give you an answer in a few seconds.
Okay.
I'd like to
May
add
not
in
be
something
right.
as well. I've worked with 350 Contra Costa, and we've been working to convince Rebecca Bauer-Can about this legislation, and she's firmly against it as it's currently written. And she's one of the reasons why it's stalled out, because
She's on one of the committees, yeah.
yeah, because she would not approve it in her committee. But the other side of the point is that Governor Newsom is very much against this piece of legislation as it was currently written. And so you've got two major Democrats, that affect our district, putting thumbs down on this. And so that's part of why the legislation is stalled in the assembly. And hence, the author pulled it because I don't know what is influencing the particular decisions about it, but they find the arguments against it fairly worthwhile considering. So right now, I don't think this legislation is going to be reintroduced in 2026 as a second-year amendment. I think it's pretty much stalled out. So 2027 probably will be the first chance to reconsider this legislation.
But do you know why? Have they said why?
For Rebecca Bauer-Can, she seems to think that the likelihood of increasing gas prices is the primary argument against it, because gas prices are already, had been going up. They're going down now, but with Valero and Phillips, or I think it's Phillips, both leaving the Bay Area, refineries being closed.
They
And
are closing now?
the
I heard
Phillips, Valero's already closed.
Okay.
Phillips is supposed to be on the in line, from what I remember. So that's two major refineries here in the Bay Area that are closing. And if this legislation is passed, they argue more refineries are going to close in Southern California. And those are two big ones. Those aren't little ones.
Yeah, but those are not in the top four that I was talking.
Aren't they going to raise the prices?
These economists says that gas prices go. Let's suppose the gas prices
I understand
go up.
that.
You know what we're paying for? LA, $250 billion. That comes out of the disaster fund, or whatever they call it. And our taxes are paying for that. House insurance is going up, and we're paying for that.
I'm not arguing against it. I'm simply saying those are the positions of the legislatures that we've talked to, legislators that we've talked to,
and point out these things that they're being they're penny foolish, or and dollar
considered by our legislators until such time as the legislation gets moving again,
Yeah,
is my point.
yeah. Well, it'll get moving again only if people get it moving again. We need to kick their asses.
So Van, we don't know what the reason other than costs. I mean, it sounded like they were fearful that the oil companies would raise the cost to consumers. But don't they just do that every time the wind blows? I mean, it seems like,
Yeah.
oh, fire.
Well,
Oh, we got to raise the
Yeah, well, the
prices.
economists say it's not the gas
It
stations
seems like,
that dictate the prices, but
Right, the refineries and the oil companies do that, but, you know, the fear is that if you drop certain refineries from operating in the state, supply and demand is gonna increase prices in California.
well, then they better get purchasing EVs or hybrids, which is what we need as well.
I've got an EV because I'm tired of paying gas prices, and it's been quite affordable, but the rest of the world doesn't seem to play to my tune.
any other questions or comments? So it sounds like we have a little follow-up to do. Ellis is going to reach out and try to talk to Rebecca Bauer-Cahan about what the objections, but it sounds like they may be objections that we can't get through. But it doesn't stop our club from writing a letter of support. So we can write a resolution in support of this, present it to the clubs, and have further discussion about it next month, if we would like to take this forward and seek an endorsement. Sounds like we need the actual text and a little more info, right? Does anybody disagree with me on that? Okay.
This is a point, this is Van again.
Yeah.
I think because the legislation is stalled, I think we should send a letter in principle supporting the purpose of the legislation. And, be a gentle reminder that that issue of making sure that polluters are held responsible remains.
Okay. That makes sense. That makes sense. Okay. Any other closing comments, Eloise? Before we move on to the next agenda item?
I have nothing further, I don't think.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. And I want to remind all of our club members, if there's an issue that's important to you, bring it to the club. Let's raise it as an issue. We do have times like this that we don't have a lot on the agenda this month. So this is the perfect time to bring in our special guest speakers to plead your case for legislation.
Well,
So-
my only final comment is I don't know where this person was, but was opposed to this bill until 4 or 5 cities in his district asked him to support it, and then he did. So we do make a difference when we call upon our assembly members and Senate members.
So let's you and I kind of work on a letter that we could present to the club, and then we can send it out to members for review and then send it on behalf. And there is a ledge portal, but if the legislation is stalled, there's no sense putting it through the portal until it's redrafted or rebranded or brought back up again. But we can definitely do a letter of intent, a letter of interest, a letter of support. And I will send to our club members some of these articles that were shared. And I do see Victor was on a little bit ago. Victor, do you want to unmute yourself and just give a brief update of what happened with the pre-endorsements this weekend? Are you still on? Let me try to pin him.
Hi, folks. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Cool. Hey, everyone. Victor, Region 6 Director for the California Democratic Party. So this past Saturday, we had the pre-endorsement conferences that happened. Each of the region, or almost all of them, had a conference for us to do the first part of the endorsement process for U.S. House, State Senate, and Assembly seats. We hosted ours in Manteca, which is geographically the middle of our region. We only have one actual like race. All of our other races for our region, so it was Assembly Districts 9, 13, 16, 22, and House Seat 9. All but 2 of them had incumbents that were not challenged, so they get automatic endorsement. So Rhodesia Ransom, Rebecca Bauer-Cahan, Josh Harder, those folks, their endorsements are being sent to the conference or the convention that's happening in February, where the entire General Assembly will vote to approve them, along with other automatic endorsements. Assembly District 22 did not have any candidates, so there was no vote. And then 89 had a sole candidate running. So our folks will be voting in that race. Besides that, we had statewide candidates show up to our pre-endorsement conference via Zoom. So we had about a dozen folks running for governor, lieutenant governor, Malia Cohn, who's running for controller, showed, superintendent of public instruction, and forgot what the other race was, but we had folks show up. As of right now, voting is still open. Voting closes on Saturday. And at that point, in the next day or so, CADEM will release the official results. All votes are public, so it will show how folks have voted. If any candidate gets 70% of the vote, automatic endorsement to the convention. If not, but more than 50%, there will be a runoff election or an endorsement caucus that will happen at the convention, February 20th to the 22nd in San Francisco. Mind you, those are just the races that were part of our region. There are other races that overlapped with us that were being held by other regional directors. So for example, Eric Swallow's seat was being held by Rocky Fernandez. My state Senate seat and my congressional seat were being hosted by Region 5 with Isaac Gudinho. So doesn't mean that those races weren't happening. It was just not a part of our region meeting and our region pre-endorsement conference. Any questions about the pre-endorsement conference? Anyone have any issues, or was it pretty straightforward voting for it?
From my perspective, it was easy. As far as the mechanics of the vote, my decision to vote to abstain was the tough decision, being UDC chair. But we did have one club member that had a problem, and I think I sent that to you. Did Isabel's vote get squared away? Do you know?
Yeah, so that one got taken care of. There was another individual, I think it's Ben Watson, but I don't think he's one of your club members.
No.
But yeah, so if any of you do have issues voting, because you didn't receive your ballot, or it's not working, let me know and we'll get that squared away. But yeah, they made the process very simple this year, so hopefully they continue doing something similar to this. I would be ideal if the party would do certain things to make it better. Like, so for example, like since we only had one contested race and it wasn't even contested, we shouldn't have had to do an in-person pre-endorsement conference, because I had to go to Manteca and sit there for like 2 hours when we all could have just been on Zoom. Things like that would be nice. I think I just posted in the chat. Okay, great. Yeah, so I posted in the chat. So again, the endorsement convention is February 20th to the 22nd at the Moscone Center in San Francisco. If any of you on here are not delegates, you can participate either as proxies for delegates. So folks who are delegates to the party who can't show up to the convention can send proxies on their behalf. So if you want to go, you can do it that way. You can also purchase an observer pass, so that way you can participate in the general sessions. The general sessions is where like the actual voting occurs, and that's also where the speakers happen. So we have like various elected officials and prominent political folks who will come to the convention and talk to the entire delegation. So if you want to participate, you can buy an observer pass. Or if you volunteer for the convention, volunteering is super simple and easy. Basically, they give you like a couple time slots for you to work. Mostly what you'll be doing is like registration. So we have, over 3,000 delegates. And so it's like a whole process and ordeal to get them to get their credentials and get them going. So your job would be to basically be at the tables and then helping delegates check in and making sure that they've paid their dues, they paid their fees, and then providing them their credentials once you verify that they're legit, right? Or proxies. So those are 3 ways, right, to participate. If you're not able to, you can always still come to the convention. A lot of the activities that happen at the convention are not like, you don't have to be a delegate or you don't have to have an observer pass or whatever to participate. There's a lot of stuff that's happening. So for a lot of you, since you're only like, I don't know, 45 minutes away to San Francisco, maybe an hour of traffic. It's a quick trip over. It's a great opportunity to meet folks who are running for these statewide offices. So like all of these candidates, right? All these folks who are running for governor, lieutenant governor, controller, whatever. All of these folks will be there at the convention. They'll be having events to get delegates to vote for them, meet and greets, all that kind of stuff. So it's a great opportunity to get to meet a bunch of these folks running for office. I don't know quite yet who the main speakers are, but the party should be announcing that in the next couple weeks. One of the other things that we'll be discussing at this convention is the party platform. So I posted in the chat the link. So if any of you want to check the draft platform to see what the party's stances will be on a bunch of key issues, you're more than welcome to check that out. We are not discussing or voting on any resolutions or legislation at this convention. So the resolutions committee and legislation committee will not be meeting. They're not going to be considering anything like that. I think the summer executive board meeting is probably the next meeting where we actually will consider adopting resolutions and consider taking positions on bills. So that will happen probably after the primary election, so maybe late June, early July. They don't have dates or location yet, but the party will let us know probably around convention time. Yeah, I mean that's basically it on the party's front, right? I mean, the main thing again is just the endorsement process and then making sure the convention is successful. But yeah, any questions for folks?
I also have a link that was sent to some of the communications folks. If people want to, there's also an opportunity to volunteer with the digital convention volunteer. It also includes a free observer pass, gain access to the hospitality suites and stuff. So if you want to be a blogger, if you want to do posting, if you're good with social media, that kind of stuff, there's another opportunity to volunteer.
Victor, can you tell us when the schedule of all the events at the convention will be published? I assume it'll be on cadem.org.
Yeah, so there's already a tentative schedule that's been published. So if you go to cdpconvention.org, that's where everything related to the convention will be at. I'm gonna post it in the chat for everyone. So if you go there, cdpconvention.org/schedule, you can see a tentative agenda that's up. And so that kind of lists, obviously not everything, but like a lot of the stuff that they've already kind of figured out is on there. So again, the Camp Cadem training that they've started doing where they're trying to allow delegates and party leaders to like learn how to run campaigns or learn about like key things on being effective with their organizing back home. It should have the committee meeting scheduled, the caucus meeting schedules. I do know for this convention, there's less caucus time slots, so there's gonna be a lot of overlap. So if you're a member of multiple caucuses, you might have to pick and choose which one to participate in. Just a heads up. Among like other stuff too. I would wait till Alfred Twu releases their unofficial schedule. Alfred's been really good in the last few years of like collecting all of the events, unofficial and official with the party, and sharing that out to delegates. I use that every time. I use his Google Sheet to figure out like where to go to, what events or parties to attend. So I'm sure he'll release that, or they'll release that in early February once we kind of know a little bit more about everything that's happening. And then I wouldn't be surprised if this is going to be your first time attending. From what I'm gathering or hearing, there might be a couple protests that will be happening at this convention on different issues. So I know folks are upset with healthcare right now. So I hear there might be an action about like making sure the party is advocating for healthcare access for everyone, to protect the ACA, to fight for Medicare for all, things like that. And then I think the last two conventions we've had protests or actions in regards to the Gaza. So I wouldn't be surprised if there are pro-Palestinian protesters who show up to the convention. I haven't heard of anything being planned so far, but like it is San Francisco, so I wouldn't be surprised if there's like all kinds of protests or actions happening, last minute or whatever. Right? It's that's just how the city is.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions for Victor? He's our regional director. Thank you so much, Victor. Let's see, let me go back to my agenda. This or tomorrow, I guess, we have several events happening. Pop-up protests tomorrow. There's one in Castro Valley, and then also one that just popped up in Livermore. Both are at 2 o'clock. One is on Portola Avenue in Livermore at 2 o'clock, and the other one is 2 o'clock at the corner of Castro Valley Boulevard and Redwood Road. I did send this information out to club members. I will post it as well on our social media, but look for that. Also, I sent out in our agenda for tonight, there is a special event at Las Positas College on February 8th. It's the Great American Shit Show with Brian Copeland. This was in coordination with Indivisible. So let me post that in the link here. Last tickets are still available, so there's still a few tickets left if you want to see that show. And get out and do some protests today or tomorrow, I should say, and we'll keep trying to share the activities from Indivisible Tri-Valley, as well as Livermore Indivisible, East Bay, and more. So we're just going to go ahead and piggyback onto all of the good activities already going on. For more locations near you, if you're in other cities, this link will take you to the place where you can search by zip code and find a protest near you. Let's see, volunteers, we already shared that. I want to go back real quick to the Constitution and Section 4. I'm going to share something with you guys, and we will get you out of here early tonight, I promise. Like I said, the 25th, we've been hearing people talk about the 25th Amendment lately, and I think Congressman Swalwell actually posted just the word 25 on his social media. And that's because of the craziness going on from this president. I mean, literally in 1 month, he's trying to get us into 3 wars without any congressional approval. Like I said, the first, second, and third sections of this amendment deal with replacing people, replacing the president, replacing the vice president. But Section 4 deals with, what do we do if we have a mad king? What do we do if our president is out of his gourd? And it's in here. And this is the amendment. Whenever the vice president and a majority of either principal officers of the executive department or such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit to the president pro tempore of the state and Speaker of the House of Reps their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. The vice president shall immediately assume the powers and duties of the office as acting president. Thereafter, when the president transmits to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives has written declaration that no inability exists, he shall resume the powers of the duties of his office, unless the vice president and a majority of either the principal officers of the executive department or of such other body as Congress may by law provide, transmit within 4 days to the president pro tempore of the Senate and the Speaker of the House of Representatives their written declaration that the president is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office. Thereupon Congress shall decide the issue, assembling within 48 hours for that purpose, if not in session. If Congress within 21 days after receipt of the latter written declaration, or if Congress is not in session within 21 days after Congress is required to assemble, determines by 2/3 vote of both House and the President is unable to discharge the powers and duties of his office, the Vice President shall continue to discharge the same as acting President. Otherwise, the President shall resume the powers and duties of his office. Long story short, we need 2/3 of Congress. We would need the President's cabinet to stand up and declare this. There's been some grumblings. I think the most grumblings I've heard this week. I don't think we're anywhere near there, but boy, I would love to see it. And with that, I'm just going to open it up for discussion. If anybody wants to talk about the 25th.
Yeah, I would.
Yes, Jeff.
So, as you just read, this can really only be initiated by the vice president and the majority of the cabinet. Realistically, that's not going to happen. Even in the increasingly likely event that the Democrats take over the House and maybe even the Senate in the midterms, I think it'll still not happen. I'm just really pessimistic about this.
For good reason.
We seem to be doomed, that not even the 25th Amendment, which I do think needs to be invoked now, just because of the what's happened to the Republican Party under Trump, turning it into a spineless bunch of sycophants. I just don't see this happening anytime in my lifetime.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll make one. I think it's impossible to invoke the 25th Amendment because the craziness has gotten contagious. I mean, it's definitely throughout his entire cabinet. It's throughout most of the Republican Party. And I think the political platform for Democrats is we got to get rid of the crazies, every one of them. And that's just the way it is.
Every one of them.
Jackie,
Yes.
so what do we do? I mean, what do we do?
I don't know. I mean, I'm at my wit's end. It's, when they see one video and we see the same video, and they see black and we see white, and it's just night and day, different realities. And I think when we saw the shooting of that poor woman, that's evident. We all saw the same video, and we came out with different conclusions. It reminds me the end of 1984. How many fingers am I holding? After a while, you start to see what they want you to see. For me, I've turned off the TV a lot. I've stopped watching a lot of the news. I read a lot more of the news. I'm making sure that, like, my parents know, don't watch Fox. You know, it's getting to a point you can't even watch CBS because of Ellison and what's happening with, you know, these huge corporations in the media markets. You know, I worked in Viacom. I worked in telecommunications. I worked for these big corporations. Never would I have ever dreamed they would be behaving the way they're behaving. Yeah, you just didn't see it. I mean, I always knew Larry Ellison was a jerk. He wrecked PeopleSoft. But, you know, one man now can destroy whole industries. And yeah, Greenland says MAGA stands for May America Go Away. Make America Go Away again. Yeah, I saw that. So, Richard, did you have something you wanted to say? I saw your comment in the chat.
No, don't worry. This is a different topic. So after we wrap up this conversation.
Okay.
Joan
Ellis?
has her hand up.
Oh, Ellis, and who else?
Joan.
Oh, Joan, I
Mary,
didn't see your
yeah.
hand up. I'm sorry. Go ahead. Alice, we'll wait
I'll
for you.
go first. Let Mary go first.
I do have something to say, but it's not part of this topic. I can wait until toward the end. Joan has had her hand up for a while.
Oh, okay. Let Joan go first.
Can you unmute yourself,
Speaker,
Joan? I can't hear you.
you're muted.
Doesn't say she is.
Yeah, I think maybe her sound isn't connected. Joan, can you make sure your sound is connected on the bottom of your? Okay.
Or the volume.
We're not hearing you. It looks like you're unmuted, but there's no sound. So if you go to your audio settings and make sure it's set for your computer. We're not getting it, Joan. You may want to type it in the chat.
If you haven't tried increasing volume, that could be it.
We see ya. While Joan's playing with her. No. Okay.
Are you going to the chat, Joan?
You can go ahead and put your question in the chat and I'll read it. Let's see. I think also, just while we're waiting on that, also on for the endorsements, Josh Harder out in Congressional District 9 was the only one up for endorsement, and Mark DeSallier, District 10. So there's a couple more of our local candidates that we've supported in the past that are up for the consent calendar. And like was mentioned, we won't know who the winners are until the end of this week.
Let Mary go.
Well, Ellis is there.
Go ahead, Ellis.
Okay. Somebody asked, what can we do? And just before this meeting, I was listening to Robert Reich on YouTube. And he pointed out that today's Martin Luther King's birthday. It's a federal holiday. And Martin Luther King couldn't get bummed out. And I've heard a lot of people saying things like that they're feeling that way, and I understand that. but he couldn't afford to do that. So I went to Robert Reich for some inspiration. What he had to say was, injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. And it occurred to me that hidden on the back page,
On a
I
hot
think
day
it
in
was
August
Thursday,
1960.
hidden on the back page, I think it was Thursday's paper, with 32 Cubans were killed in the Maduro kidnapping. That Trump did that. If 32 US troops were killed any place in this world, all hell would break loose. But instead, the bodies were coming home to Cuba to be buried. These people had families. These people didn't have any gripe with the United States. What Dr. Reich, Robert Reich, suggested was civil disobedience. And these demonstrations that Jackie was talking about in Livermore and Castro Valley, well, we saw the people come down from there to Dublin on Saturday, and they said, this is about not funding ICE. And in Castro Valley, they're going to walk down to Eric Swalwell's office to tell him not to fund ICE, like Eric needed the encouragement. He said ICE has to be defunded, and the Department of Homeland Security, their budget has not been passed yet. So what we should ask the congressman to do is disarm ICE, say in this legislation that funds ICE, that funds Homeland Security, that ICE has no immunity. And they can't do targeting based on race and accent, and you look like you're a Latino or something like that. They have to have real targets with warrants. Now, AOC had something very relevant to say. She pointed out that the cuts that we're seeing in healthcare are coming out of the budget. And where they're going from the healthcare budget is to ICE. And that's what we have to be purveying to congressmen. Reich said that activism is the antidote for feeling fearful and hopeless. And that's what you're asked to do. Now, luckily, our congressmen, Mark DeSaulnier, Eric Swalwell, we know they're going to do the right thing. But I don't want you to do this. I don't want you to look up an address in a red district and say that you're somebody from that district and complain to them about your health care rates going up and it being used to defund ICE, and it shouldn't be used to fund ICE. So don't do that. Don't call up any other congressman in California and tell him that you're one of his constituents. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Can you tell about the protests on
Okay, Richard. I think we're good on this subject. Go ahead, let's go on to the next subject.
I'm happy to pass to Mary if she wanted to say something first on a different subject.
No, I wanted to follow up on Ellis because I also follow Robert Reich, and I want to second the emotion that activism, continuous activism is what is needed and what will get us out of the dumps, and feeling impotent with all of that, all of what is going on. And I also wanted to get more specific about the Livermore demonstration tomorrow, the one that's at 2. You said it would be at Portola. Specifically, it's going to be at the corner of Portola and North Livermore at Portola Park. And because Portola is sort of a long street.
And I will go ahead and send, I will send out a reminder. I'll post everything on our social again for those 2 events. I think I sent out the
And
Castor Valley
I,
one.
I should say that around, oh, I'm sorry, Jackie.
That's okay.
Around town, there's a lot going on. There are people holding, and I'm doing most of this for me, people holding signs on the freeway twice a week, parties creating the signs. There are the pop-up demonstrations, the big demonstrations, groups, meetings. There's something going on almost continuously. Postcards, there were postcards for Prop 50. Tabling at the farmers market for there's always something going on, and it's a wonderful antidote for counteracting the feelings of helplessness and confusion.
Thank you.
I'm done.
Okay. So join an indivisible group now. And we will tag along with them. I have no qualms posting their stuff. So indivisible.
There's going to be a lot of canvassing in the Central Valley coming up real soon.
Richard.
Great. Thanks, folks. Before we all depart for the evening, I just wanted to quickly touch on, you heard Victor, our regional director, talk about some of the stuff that that the party has been doing, including pre-endorsement this past weekend and this week, and then the convention in February. As for our club specifically, I just wanted to preview a little bit of what we're going to be doing in these upcoming months. As I'm sure everyone on this call knows, the Tri-Valley is, for the first time in a while, maybe the spotlight is on us in the East Bay in many different ways. We are planning to hold our endorsement vote for the governor's race in March. That is what we have planned for our March meeting, just because on the statewide level, I believe the filing deadline is March 6th. So that's when folks have to still enter the race. And given how volatile that candidate pool has been in terms of folks coming in and out, we wanted to give the maximum opportunity of folks who may come or leave that race in the coming weeks before the filing deadline closes. So we're planning to have, we're in talks with a few gubernatorial candidates to come speak with us at our March meeting. I know we've already had the Honorable Betty Yee and Eric Swalwell come talk to us. We're trying to line up a few more if we can, and then we'll have our endorsement vote for that race mid-March. And then in April, we are planning to gather the California Congressional District 14 candidates who are running for Eric Swalwell's seat. We know there are a couple of candidates that are already in the race, a couple that are just about to declare, and then also potentially more in the coming weeks. So that is also a fluid situation as well, but we are in contact with those candidates as well to get them scheduled for April for our endorsement vote in that race. So in terms of the folks here, just a reminder that to be eligible to vote in our endorsement process, you have to be a dues paying member, and you also have to be a dues paying member 28 days or more in advance of the endorsement vote. So the bad news is if you haven't paid your dues yet, you're currently not eligible to vote. But the good news, of course, is there's plenty of time. So I highly encourage folks who want to participate in our endorsement process this year, please go ahead to our website, pay your dues, Let us know if you have any issues with any of that. But that's just a little preview of what is on our club's radar in the coming months. So get excited and get prepared. And Jackie, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. Thank you. And if you were at our meeting last month, we did say we were going to push these endorsements out. Richard is handling all of the endorsement process and will be documenting based on our bylaws. We'll put together a ballot for these two races. And hopefully at the end of this week, maybe there'll be some clear guidance from the central committee, from our delegates. Maybe one of these candidates will come out on top. We'll have to wait and see. So it's going to be a very exciting time here in this district. And that's all I have on that. Is there any other new business? I want to open it up if anybody has any new business or any comments they want to bring to the club.
Let me report on the Dublin rallies that we've been having on Saturday from noon to about 1:30. This weekend, we had about 200 people there, I think, and the weekend before, about 250. It's very much a barometer of Trump's behavior that determines what kind of turnout we have, in addition to the weather, of course. But big turnouts in Dublin. I don't know exactly what's going on in Livermore, but there's a lot of people there. And there's a lot of people come from Castro Valley to Dublin.
And Hayward.
And points west. Anyway, if you haven't found a place to demonstrate on a Saturday just afternoon, come on down to Dublin.
Tell them exactly where.
We're at the corner where Safeway is, and the big clock. There's a big 5 there, and Coco's used to be on the corner. The sign is still there.
We're across the
Noon to
street.
1:30. Noon till 1:30.
Correct.
Eloise is one of our regulars.
And Brody posted something in the chat. UC Berkeley professor Dan Farber speaks on Trump and the Constitution on Thursday, the 22nd at 7 o'clock, and that's with the San Ramon Valley Democratic Club. Brody, are we okay to share this with our club members? Is there any
Yes.
event you have on Zoom?
I'd be glad to have everyone come and hear Professor Dan Farber. He's written many books on the Constitution, and it should be interesting where he talks about Trump and the Constitution. So yeah, everyone's invited. It's a Zoom meeting. You just register. I put the information in the chat.
Thank you. Too bad we can't get some Republicans to go to that and learn about the Constitution.
Yeah.
Any other new business? I'm just going to share a video here to close with in honor of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.
Somebody is raising their hand.
Oh, I didn't see that. Why am I not seeing the hands raised? I don't know why I don't see
Treasurer's report.
Oh, Alan. Do we have a treasure? Oh, we probably have some money coming in, don't we?
Yeah, I mean, I did it. I may as well say what it is.
Sure, absolutely, please.
Okay, let's be quick. We had income this month of $845. Our only expense was for credit card fees, $32.84, giving us a net gain of $812.16. We started out with $174.15, and we now have a balance of $2,186.31. That compares to last year at this time when we had $2,500. We only have 46 people 46 families and entities who have paid their dues. And I just want to stress again, you've got to be a member for 28 days in order to do the endorsements. And if you have any questions, you can email the site, the treasurer's site, which you'll find on the website. I can let you know if you're a member, or if you need any other assistance or questions or whatever, please let me know.
And
Told you I'm quick.
I will, you are awesome. Let me get you the links to renew our dues, and where you can find all the information about dues. We do have a senior discount, we have family discounts, we have student discounts. So, and if you can't afford it, let us know. We are not going to have anybody miss being a member because they cannot afford dues. So we do have a program in place. We can waive dues if you need us to do so. Any other new business? Let me see if I can share this without messing stuff up.
On a hot day in Texas was feeling unknown.
I hate ads. Sorry, guys. Hate ads.
On a hot day in August 1963, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. delivered a speech that would define the civil rights movement, his legacy. This, of course, was his I Have a Dream speech, delivered on the steps of the Lincoln Memorial during the March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom.
Dream. Nation where they will not by the but by the content of their character.
The March on Washington served as a massive push for economic and political justice for African Americans. Held during the year celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Emancipation Proclamation, crowds marched on the National Mall to watch a variety of musical performances and speeches. Dr. King, a Baptist preacher and prominent civil rights leader, was scheduled to speak towards the end of the day, his debut on the national stage. Up until that point, King mostly addressed small crowds at Black churches, rallies, or fundraisers. This time, he would be seen by nearly 250,000 people on the ground, as well as millions at home watching on television. This was an opportunity to reach a wide audience and persuade the public and the government to take action against racial injustice. The night before, King worked with a close group of advisors to get the speech just right. They worked through the night, settling on a final draft in the pre-dawn hours of August 28th. Interestingly, the phrase, "I have a dream," a phrase he used in earlier speeches, was nowhere to be found in this copy. The words wouldn't manifest until almost halfway into Dr. King's speech, when gospel singer Mahalia Jackson, who had performed earlier in the day, called out to him from the sidelines to tell them about the dream. King set his prepared remarks aside and improvised the rest, crafting a soaring speech that would sear into the minds of millions of Americans.
No, we are not.
Speech was divided into two parts. The first listed the injustices that African Americans faced: segregation, police brutality, disenfranchisement, and discrimination, and urged a call to nonviolent action. The second launched into King's dream of peace and racial harmony, a vision of a future in which people will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. Highlighting King's skills as a preacher, I Have a Dream was part sermon and part poetry, using rhetorical devices like repetition, rhyme, and vivid metaphor to drive his points home. It was peppered with historic, biblical, and literary references that moved the crowd. This message of struggle and hope became the defining moment not only of King's career, but also the civil rights movement. Both the speech and the March on Washington were credited with helping secure the passage of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. a landmark piece of legislation that ended segregation and banned discrimination on the basis of race or sex in the workplace. The speech also resonated with activists around the globe. I have a dream. The phrase that wasn't even meant to be in his final draft appeared in political actions all around the world. It's considered one of the world's most transformative and influential speeches, alongside others like Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address and Winston Churchill's Blood, Toil, Tears, and Sweat. I Have a Dream is only one of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s many achievements, but it's nonetheless one of the most pivotal.
John, with you today in what will go down in history as the greatest demonstration for freedom in the history of our nation.
And with Martin Luther King Jr.'s words, I would like to close in honor of him tonight.
We've been a Web Plus member for years now. It's
And
a
my
no-brainer for us.
computer
I know
still
that we
shifts,
save
but-
quite a bit on shipping by
Sorry.
being a Web Plus member. We instantly saw the value.
Oh, there we go.
Alice has something to say.
Okay.
I was there.
Alice was there.
Wow. That must
I
have
was
been a moment.
17 and just out of high school, and me and my buddies drove all night and fell asleep on the Capitol lawn. And when we woke up, there were more people than we'd ever seen in our entire lives.
You were in history, Ellis. You were a piece of history.
Donald Trump told us that white men have suffered ever since those laws have passed.
Oh, that man. That
So
man.
let's feel sorry for the white basketball players.
Okay.
I love J6 on the steps of the Capitol Hill. They talked about J6 and never forget. I loved it. Anyway, sorry.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And unless there's anything else, I'd like to go ahead and adjourn the meeting.
Nice seeing you, Dan.
Thank you.